investors and traders, and welcome to the weekly market report with the market guys. I'm AJ Monty. This has been a very interesting week, to say the least, where Wednesday we had gone up looking as though we were going to break out of this resistance high that I identified last week, and then Thursday we came right back down. So the added volatility has really caused some of the buyers to move to the sidelines until we get more evidence of an official breakout. Now, this is the line that I drew from last week. I'm actually going to keep that in place, same angle, same breakout pattern, the whole thing, with one exception, in that I am going to just move it over to the right a little bit. What I think we could see next week is a breakout over the high, and if I zoom in, you'll see something very interesting. Even though this was a red candle, we still have a higher low and a higher high. So that leads me to believe that the buyers are still in force. They're weakening a bit, but come Monday, if we see a green candle anywhere in this area where I have my cursor right there, if we see a green candle there on higher volume, that's like the buyers taking a couple of steps back, getting ready to break through the wall. So getting a running start on that breakout resistance that I'm talking about right here. So keep an eye on the Dow and use caution, of course, because if this turns out to be a resistance area that holds, obviously the buyers are not going to come in, and then the sellers will start to take over. So we're at a turning point right now that every investor should be very much aware of, and that's the diamonds. Now, if I look at a more broad-based index, and that's the spiders, it's the Spider S&P 500 ETF, you can see that my line is in place from last week. Same scenario. The interesting thing here is that we have two bullish engulfing patterns almost back to back. So I'm going to leave that in place as well, except I'm just going to move it to the right. So this is what I'm looking at right here. Breakout of that high right there for next week. So keep that in mind as we move forward into the middle of April. Remember, this is all happening still before April 15th. Once tax day comes along, we could see a shift in momentum, but it's still too early to tell what's going to happen there. If we look at the Russell 2000, of course, this is a more broad-based index that encompasses 2,000 stocks instead of Dow 30. But as I zoom in here, you'll see that we're still playing with this resistance area right here. I think that we could still move up to retest this trend line right here. Once we get up to that trend line, we might see a little bit of a pullback. I'll just make that little hash mark there to give it that indication that we could pull back a little bit. But again, we see a bullish engulfing pattern right here on Wednesday, bullish engulfing pattern before the red candle here. And this is a smaller bodied candle. I think there's enough force in here on the buy side to be able to get that back up. Again, this will most likely fall in line with what we just talked about with the diamonds and with the spiders. Now, if we look at the tech sector through the Qs, that's QQQ, also known as the power shares, you'll see that everything seems to be working in concert here. So I'm going to leave that line in place right there, and I'm going to just move that over to the right, again expecting a little bit of a breakout right there, and we'll leave that in place because there's still a small little tiny gap up here where I think the price action can go up before we eventually head lower. And my long-term view, I don't want to confuse anyone here, short-term is bullish. My overall long-term view of the general markets is bearish. So you have to really consider what your strategy is. Investors will tend to look at longer term charts. Traders will look at the shorter term charts, and that's how we gauge our strategies, is based on the time frame. Now finally, the VIX. This is the volatility index for the S&P. You'll see that the charts are showing that my last week's lines was that would go down. I'm going to leave that in place. I think we can drop just a little bit to retest this support level right there. And I'll leave that support level in place to see whether or not we're right as we analyze these lines next Friday. So that's a weekly market report with the market guys. Thanks for joining. Have a great weekend, and we'll speak with you soon. So.
This video segment is a small part of what the Market Guys offer through their educational products and services. If you are interested in any of our Trade Alert services, or you would like more information about our one-on-one mentoring program, simply contact us at info@themarketguys.com.